Oh, that is so cool. I can see you.
Yeah, that is cool.
Part of the PowerPoint. Well, good evening. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. It feels so good to be back to talk about Liberty Road. I am Gone Job, Community Planning Division Chief for the Baltimore County Department of Planning. Next, please. So the agenda tonight will start with an introduction of attendees, and then we'll go to a presentation on previous initiatives. We will then define what a community development organization is, followed by the purpose and goals. Next, we will introduce the consultant team who will talk about the timeline and provide an overview of the engagement strategy. And there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So I just want to note that this meeting is being recorded. If you can't stay for the entire meeting or you want to go back and rewatch the meeting later, it will be posted online. And also due to the anticipated number of attendees tonight, everyone will be kept on mute throughout the presentation. We will ask for comments and questions towards the end of the evening, and we will provide instructions for doing so through the chat feature. So next, I would like to introduce Steve Lafferty, Director of the Department of Planning, who will provide welcome remarks and introduce our panelists.
Gane, thank you very, very much. Good evening, everybody. It's truly a pleasure to be here at this very exciting and wonderful time. This is basically a realization of the goals that the county executive has set out, not only to build community development organizations in the county, but to also support and encourage investment and activity in Randallstown and along Liberty Road. It was actually identified in his transition team report 4 years ago, where people were adamant, really, that we need to build more community development organizations or CDOs to be on the ground partners for the work that needs to be done in the county. I don't think it's any secret to anybody. The county executive is very serious and committed to reinvesting in the older communities and to making sure that people have an opportunity to participate. That has also been part of the mantra from Department of Planning. We want to hear from all the communities, all the residents as much as possible about what they see their future being. So we can help us set that pathway. We need strong on the ground partners, and that's really the intent of setting up this community development organization and going through the process that we have to hire top-notch consultants that can help us achieve that goal. The county executive had other commitments tonight, but asked me to please express his support, not only for the effort, but also in order to keep him apprised as we move forward, because this is something that he wants to see succeed. And certainly your involvement tonight is a great step forward. Before I sign off, though, and turn this over to Kirk Mitchell, let me also welcome Michelle Bernstein, who is the District 2 Outreach Coordinator, Daphne Daly, who is Planning Department's Western Sector Lead Planner, and I believe we have with us this evening as well, so Lisa Jefferson and Todd Dolan from the Department of Economic and Workforce Development, a sister agency who will be working closely with us in the Liberty Road corridor. So once again, thank you very, very much for your participation tonight. I look forward to hearing your comments and to them working with you as we move this project forward. Thank you. Kirk?
Thank you so much, Director Lafferty. Good evening, everyone. It's just as Director Lafferty said, it's such an exciting time with everything that's happening in the Liberty Road corridor, particularly on the heels of the county executive's announcement of the new market that's coming to the area at Milford Mill and Liberty Road location, the Old Giant. So this is just a very exciting time. We love the energy that's happening, and we're very excited to hear from our great consultants this evening, as well as our planning team. But I just want to take the opportunity to recognize some of our elected officials. I think I see Delegate Ruth. Good evening, ma'am. Delegate-elect N. Scott Phillips. Good evening, sir. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. I think I also see from Senator-elect Ben Brooks' office, Ms. Kim Shiloh. Good evening to you. And I think I also see Mr. Ray Conaway from Kwesi and Fumi's office. So forgive me if I've missed anyone. I tried to scan the list pretty frequently here without missing anyone, but if I have, please forgive me. Good evening, and sit back and pay attention because we've got some great news and this great team of consultants that are spearheading this for us. So we're looking forward to hearing from them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kirk. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. So while we cannot see all the attendees here tonight, we would like to get a sense of who is joining us. So there is a short poll that will appear in the chat. We'll take about a minute to give everyone a chance to let us know which councilmanic district they reside or do business in. So thank you all very much for providing that information. And you should be seeing the poll. Yep, right there. Myers, what do you think?
Yeah, if we could just wrap the votes up for this first question, and then I'll start the second poll for the second question.
Okay. And then the second question is coming up. Have you participated in past planning initiatives for Liberty Road? Already, now I think Myers is going to reveal the results.
Yes, give me just one moment. And okay, so District 4 is the highest representation with 59%, District 2 with 19%, and 22% outside of both districts for the first question.
Thank you.
And for the second question, the majority, 55%, have participated in past planning initiatives for Liberty Road.
This is great. Thank you, Miles. And thank you all for taking the poll. So with that, let's get started. So there have been many initiatives in the past calling out for a need to increase organization capacity, this in order to support the revitalization of Liberty Road. So some of the most recent ones include the Liberty Road study in 2019, which was the foundation for developing the action plan for the Northwest Gateway Sustainable Community Plan. This plan was approved by the state in 2020, and one of the recommendations included developing design guidelines for Liberty Road, which many of you were involved in. And then another recommendation was to create a community development organization, CDO. But what exactly is a CDO? I will now turn it to Amy Menzer, who is our Senior Project Manager for Baltimore County Department of Planning, to talk more about the purpose, the goals, and the outcome for creating a CDO.
Thanks, Gane. Sorry, April, you can move to the next slide. So yes, I'm coming to this work with over 15 years of experience doing community development, and I'm very excited to be part of this process with the county of expanding the number of CDOs in the county. Basically, a CDO is a community-based nonprofit organization that has a targeted focus area whose purpose is to improve the community. It's funded by a wide range of sources and has a board of directors that oversees the finances of the CDO, makes sure that the organization maintains compliance with various regulatory entities. And then the board is also involved in developing and overseeing the implementation of the strategic plan. An important component is also that there are annual meetings and reports to the broader public, and that creates an ongoing opportunity for the public to track the progress of the organization and provide feedback on the future direction of the organization. A CDO is not an end-all be-all, and it's not meant to replace existing organizations or efforts that are ongoing in the community. Hopefully, it's seen as a value add. Next slide. And really, most broadly, a CDO is an opportunity for you in the community to be part of making some of the change that you want to see happen in the community and be an author of your own future, at least as it is implemented through initiatives that are developed through the CDO and overseen by the CDO. So there's a wide range of roles that a CDO can play, whether it's acquiring and renovating property, providing loans and grants to businesses along the corridor, or perhaps to individuals for home repair, initiating a marketing campaign for the corridor, advocating for further investments. Next slide. So as our director, Steve Lafferty, touched on already, you all have asked for the creation of a CDO in your community, and we heard you. The county heard you and wants to see this happen and sees that there's a real value in having some on-the-ground capacity to direct and implement initiatives to improve the community. In working with the consultant team, we're going to be looking to work with stakeholders to better define the target area and priorities for the CDO, make sure that those plans are realistic for a brand new nonprofit organization, setting goals that they can take on and where they can achieve success. And then success can build on success. And so we'll be also looking to the consultant team to work with the new CDO to develop that 3-year strategic plan and help support a brand new executive director and board as they begin implementing the plan. Next slide. And I want to also just mention that the county believes it's really important to build on the strengths that you already have in the Liberty Road corridor, in the central node, where you have a major anchor institution in Northwest Hospital and some other key assets, and to really build on those strengths. But that we also recognize that there are opportunities and needs outside of the central node. And so part of what we'll be working with the consultant team and all of you on is refining what the geographic scope for the new CDO will be, and also the programmatic scope, because if we're trying to do everything everywhere all at once, it'll be very difficult to achieve anything. So, so working together, we'll need to make some tough decisions about how to further refine that focus. And we're very pleased to be working with the Nelson Ideation Group on this process. You can go to the next slide. And so without any further ado, I want to turn it over to Carla Nelson Prime for Nelson Ideation Group.
Thank you, Amy, and good evening, everyone. It is a long time coming, and I am happy, grateful, and humble to have this opportunity. I am not going to read what's on the screen. I think you all can see this for yourself, but we are a multifaceted company, women-owned, certified firm in Maryland and Baltimore City, of course, Baltimore County. And we bring a wealth of experience as it relates to working with both business and community in our past efforts. And excited, I happen to be a resident of Randallstown, Maryland. So when I saw the proposal come out, I was really ecstatic that I could do work, not in my backyard, but literally in my front yard. So with that, and just to let you know, though the screen says, I am a board member of Baltimore County's Economic Development Advisory Board. I was a commissioner for Baltimore County's Procurement Commission for about a year. And I guess I still am, a member of the Northwest Gateway Sustainability Committee, and that talks about, again, Liberty Road. So there's a lot of information that I've garnered and learned, and we will want to put all of that information into what we're doing with this CDO. And I'd like to move to the next slide and introduce my partner in this work, Ms. Sandra Mizell Cheney, who is our nonprofit consultant, and I call her the guru of nonprofits. And so with that, Sandra, you have the floor. You're muted, Sandra.
Well, there you go. Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. Technology. But thank you, Carla. And thank you to Amy and Director Steve. I'm excited to be a part of this work. Nonprofit is my world. I have about 25 years plus experience in the nonprofit sector. As you can see there, I worked with local and national organizations. I've also been a board on several nonprofits, including coalitions as well as small and large nonprofits. I am also a chair for several grant review panels on the federal government side of this. So my background is vast in this arena. I am looking forward to building and helping the community in Randallstown see what they've been asking for so many years. So the CDO is truly an amazing thing. So I'm ecstatic. And we're going to actually talk about the timeline. So we can go to the next slide so you can understand how this is going to come about. So as you can see right now, we're at the virtual kickoff. And after that, we're going to convene the work group and conduct a needs assessment. The needs assessment is so that we can understand what the community needs. The CDO is going to be comprised of people, I'm sure, from the community. But in order for us to be able to help the CDO and help the work group, we need to understand what the community is in need of. So we're going to create a needs assessment, which will be sent out as a survey. You'll get more information about that, hopefully sometime in January. Once we do that, we're going to also establish our board of directors. We're going to also identify the mission, because we need to know the mission and the vision, as well as the name for this new CDO. We're going to also work with the new community development organization in terms of helping the board to become trained, hire an executive director, finalize a 3-year strategic plan, as well as provide assistance to the new ED. So it's, as you can see, we're starting in January and we're hoping to be complete in December. But along the way, the biggest thing is working with the community and making sure that we're able to gather what everyone needs and to make sure that everyone's voice is being heard. So when this needs assessment come out, please, I'm asking everyone to please take part in that, because your voice is so needed in this process. And with that, I'm gonna turn it back over to Carla.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So part of this, the reason, also another reason for the stakeholder kickoff tonight is to inform you about our stakeholder engagement and what that entails. First step is to create a work group formation. And the criteria that we are looking at is a mix of business owners, both large and small, institutions, retail, restaurant services, property owners, community leaders, faith leaders, even youth and immigrants that might be along the Liberty Road corridor, and of course, community partners. And our goal is to make sure that we have a nice mix of people that will help form the work group, because in that work group is where all the work gets done. The surveys, the needs assessment survey is put together and put out, and we're constantly getting the input from larger groups, and then we come back as that work group to get the work, to literally get the work done. And then as we indicate, it's going to be an intensive period. So we're looking for people who have the ability to commit 3 to 6 months of meetings, possibly twice a month, 2 hours, because you can never get anything done in about an hour. So it may be flexible, but that's what we're looking at, because it's intense and we don't have much time to get this work. There's a heavy lift, and that heavy lift is a little bit easier when we have synchronization in the process of everyone. And yes, there will be both in-person and virtual meetings. Next slide, please. And then with the needs assessment, the work group will formulate the questions for the survey and disseminate it throughout both District 4 and 2. And so when Sandra asked that you would please stay engaged, that's also where we're looking for both Kurt and Michelle's input to get the survey out, along with the representatives from the Councilmatic District. I know that Ms. Caldwell with District 4, Councilman Ford, that office, she's here on the line. So you all have the email list, and we rely heavily on the list that we have to get this information out to everyone. And then there are going to be some focus groups, meaning people are not part of the work group, but we may need to talk to a particular group of people. Sometimes usually it's probably around the large business owners, or maybe there's a retail group that we want to talk to, the retail business owners, and just to see what their specific needs are. It might be all of the homeowners associations that we talk to. So there'll be focus groups that we will engage with throughout this process as well. And yes, the faith-based community as well. Next slide, please. So now we're at the question and answer part. I know this was kind of fast, but we said an hour, and we wanted to give some time for questions and answers. And I'm turning it back over I think it's to Daphne, that's going to manage our question. If not, it's Gonye, but I'm turning it back over. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Sandra. So I know this was a lot of information. Again, all of this info will be posted in the Hub, along with a copy of the presentation and the recording. And I believe Daphne has posted the link of the CDO webpage in the chat. So if you haven't already, please be sure to go to the project website and click the join button. This allows you to get email updates about the process and notifications about upcoming meetings and events. So now I will open the floor for questions, and we have Michelle Bernstein, District 2 Coordinator from the Office of Community Engagement, who will help us gather the questions for the team to answer. So again, there are instructions on how you will post your questions. Just make sure that you include your first name, your last name, and your email address when typing your questions, and ensure that everyone is selected before you send your comments. And also, please do not send your comments or your questions to the host. Michelle will read your questions. If we do not get to your questions tonight, we will respond to you in the next 48 hours if we have your contact information. All right, so let's get started.
The first question you guys answered, but I'll read it also with someone. Kathleen had asked about the legal status of the CDO. Would it be on the state's SSTAT system? Would it show as a business entity? And planning folks had answered it will be incorporated and probably be a 501c3, but it has not been organized yet. so does not show up on SSTAT. And right, someone reiterated it has not been filed yet, the 501c3 status. And then the next question that we got was from Angela. How do we express interest in being in the work group?
So who wants to take on that question? Carla?
Okay, I'll take it on. I'm sorry, Amy. We were going in between the two. If there is, you see on this slide, there's a piece that says join, and we are asking you to go to the hub on the county's webpage and click there, and we'll gather your information that way, and we'll follow up with you. Our goal is to try to follow up with people in the next few weeks, and then possibly early January because of, you know, the holidays. But yes, that's how we start the process, is we want everyone who's interested to go to this page on the county's website.
Yes, and then, you know, you can also, the very next slide will be my contact information, and you can also feel free to email me, and I am compiling, you know, information about anybody who inquires, so that, you know, we obviously can't add everybody to the work group because that would be unwieldy in terms of their ability to accomplish anything. But I think if you want to email me with, you know, more specifics about why you'd like to be involved, you know, if there are various organizations you represent or experiences that you can bring to this process. And April, I don't know if you can flip back to the sort of criteria slide that sort of shows kind of the range of stakeholders we're looking for. There, yeah, just, you know, so, and this is not meant to be an all exhaustive list, but what it's trying to demonstrate is that we're looking for a broad range of people, and also people that can commit to some intensive work to get this organization started. So, and if you want to be involved but can't commit quite this much time, you know, perhaps you can be part of a focus group. So, you know, we welcome any expressions of interest, and you know, we'll be following up in the coming weeks. So,
Thank you for that. Michelle, do we have another question?
Yeah, the next question was from Martha Nathanson. What is the geographic area that the CDO will cover?
So I touched on that in a couple of the slides. If you go back, April, to there's a map with a green circle on it. Yep, that one. So our goal with this project is to really build on the strengths of the central node. And I certainly anticipate that there'll be a chunk of work that the CDO will do within that node, which is the blue circle in the center of your screen. Hopefully you can see the label there that's sort of small that says central node. And then, but we also recognize that there are needs and also opportunities outside of that central node. And so we really want the CDO to focus, you know, within this green circle. But that's a huge area. And so we are expecting the stakeholders in the work group, working with the consultant, working with the county to, you know, further hone things down, both in geography as well as in programmatic focus. So I could give you precise streets, but we don't want to do that at this point. We want to have the work group involved and have them be the ones to kind of nail that level of detail down. But thanks. I understand why you're asking. So.
Amy, there's a couple comments in the chat. Someone asked about Janet asked, what is the central node? And Delegate Ruth just asked, is that vertical line the Beltway? So I don't know if you do want to touch on those two, or.
I realized perhaps I should have done more of a pointer thing when I was talking earlier. Oh, the central node, you know, Gunay, do you want to explain how maybe how planning, because you've been involved in the corridor for several years, do you want to explain?
Yeah. So just because the corridor is so long, we divided it into 3 nodes. So The eastern node goes from, as you can see, from the city line all the way to the Beltway. And then the central node, which is kind of like the heart of Randallstown, goes from the 695 all the way like, like approximately Greens Lane. And then we have the western node, which is from Greens Lane all the way to Lions Mill Road.
And so the gray box on the right of the map, that's the city line. And the vertical line in the center is the Beltway. So
in gray, yeah. So yeah, we have the Beltway, and then we have Liberty Road Corridor in red. Okay, next question.
The next question is, what is the projected time frame for participants to receive any follow-up information, participants that are on this call tonight, and also request just to send that hub address to participants on this call via email afterwards?
Well, we are looking to talk to people based on the information we get in the hub before the Christmas holiday, and then again after the New Year, and hopefully make some decisions to make sure we have a good mix. I'm going to say, I don't want to say, but it will be sometime early January, because we have to get back with the planning department and make sure that we have a good mix. Also, the planning department has the hub that was listed, and that, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that will be emailed out to everyone with this that's on the call, so that you can join. But it's already on the website for the county, so you can go out there and click the join button and get your information in now. And then Amy's information, her email is also in the chat. I think you have to scroll up a little bit in the chat area, and you can email her your information. I'm kind of scrolling that chat as well and seeing some people who are interested. But that information that you're putting in the chat is going to have to go to planning before we can get that information back. And Amy, I don't know if you want to add anything else to that.
my goal is to collect all the emails that we have from this meeting and that I've received in the last week or so from people who have expressed interest, and make sure that the link to the hub gets out to you within 48 hours. So give me a couple days to digest all of that and get it out. But we will also post this meeting on the hub, but I think it may take a little more than 2 days before it gets up there. I'm not in total control of that process, but our goal is to also use that hub as an ongoing conduit for providing you all with updates as we go along.
Very good. Do we have another question?
Yeah, we do. We have a few more. The next question is, will all the efforts to improve Liberty Road fall under this nonprofit?
That's a good question, and no, that's not what we're envisioning, because it's a long corridor. The work is vast, and this will be a hopefully mighty but very small nonprofit to start with. And it's like trying to drink from a fire hose. If you're trying to do everything all at once, you're not going to accomplish much of anything. And so the CDO will coordinate with other existing organizations and entities. And I think over time, people will find their grooves with, what their focus areas are. And some of that will take time, but no, the CDO is not going to control all the work. So.
Thank you for that, Amy. Michelle, next question, please.
The next question is, can social entrepreneurships exist as part of a CDO? Is there a relationship there?
I'm not exactly sure what they mean by that, but if it's about being a participant in the work group, absolutely. And for a social entrepreneur, my understanding also is that they're always getting a message out. So that I don't see why we would not want someone to help us to get the good news out about what's going on. But again, please direct your information to Amy's email and to the information on the hub, and we would love to talk with you further.
Yeah, I can definitely see that a social entrepreneurship type initiative could be really great for the Liberty Road corridor. I don't think that's where the CDO is going to start, because I think often that sort of thing would be treated as almost like a subsidiary of the CDO. I mean, you could set it up in different ways, but like if the CDO wanted to create a coffee shop that employed young people in the community and trained them or whatever. I'm just trying to give an example for people that don't know what I suspect this person is asking about. But anyway, I'd love to talk to you more about it. So yes, feel free to email me, and I'm happy to follow up on that one.
Next question, please.
The next question is, how is this project being funded?
Good question. Steve, do you want a question?
Sure.
Potentially?
I'll be happy.
I can answer it, but
I'll be happy to respond to that. As you probably know, the county received first money, 2 tranches of money from the federal government as a result of the pandemic. The first, called CARES, was distributed primarily to help buoy up businesses, and also then to support other activities that were going to prevent people from being evicted from homes, making sure people had food, to meet a lot of the basics. The second action came from the federal government, the American Recovery Program Act, or referred to as ARPA. And the county then was soliciting requests from as well as from outside entities for funding opportunities. And our department proposed money from ARPA to be used to not only hire a consultant, but then to help stand up this organization. So these are federal dollars that have been channeled specifically at the county executive's request to focus on Liberty Road. Not every part of the county is eligible for these funds. Fortunately, we had these available to help us fund this project.
Thank you, Director Lafferty. Michelle, next question, please.
The next question is, what role will environmental justice play in this plan?
I think some of that depends on what the work, what the stakeholders decide the work of the CDO is going to be initially. And so, I mean, I think that that's something worth thinking about. And if you have a specific interest in that, again, if you want to email me, I'd be interested in hearing kind of like what you're thinking about, what, you know, and what you would want the CDO to be doing, and, you know, we can incorporate that into the feedback and thoughts on where to go. So.
Amy, I would thank you. I would take that one step further in saying that diversity, equity, and inclusion is critical to the overall goals that the county has set. So those elements will certainly be part of this. Whether there's an environmental factor, really, as Amy just said, is going to be sort of, it'll come through the community. If there are environmental issues that need to be addressed, then certainly environmental justice will be part of that discussion. But we're continually striving to make sure that we're trying to build upon the pillars that the county executive has set out for diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you. Michelle, what is our next question?
Director Lafferty provided a great transition, because the next question was, what role will diversity be in selecting the focus groups and also forming the CDO?
All inclusive. We did not, on purpose for this meeting, put in a series of questions so that we could get a nice, well-rounded group. But when we have our one-on-one conversations with everyone, we want to make sure that there is balance in that as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the equity and is, I think, a big part of why we're hoping to get this CDO started. So
Okay. Thank you. Next question, please.
The next question is, will the CDO support the Liberty Road design guidelines established in 2021?
I'm not sure what this, I think that the CDO, I would hope that the CDO wouldn't, that any facade improvements made along the commercial corridor, that sort of thing, that they would be compliant with those guidelines. The role of the CDO in relationship to those design guidelines may still need to be figured out by the stakeholders through this process in terms of what the CDO wants to focus on, but certainly one role that the CDO could play would be helping to implement those design guidelines and encourage commercial property owners to make improvements that are consistent with those guidelines. Does that sound right, Gane?
That's perfect. Thank you for taking that question. Michelle, next question, please.
Okay, as far as I can tell, we're down to the last question and last comment. So someone commented, why stop at Lyons Mill? There are homes and businesses that stretch towards Chapel. There's not much between that and the bridge that connects Carroll County. And a sort of related question was, someone asked, after the central node is done, which node will be worked on next, either the eastern or the western?
I think it's, you know, there's a lot of work that could be done. And, you know, I did a quick look at numbers, and there's over 20,000 people in 5 census tracts within the central node alone. So I think it's important to be realistic about the scope of a very small, brand new entity. And I think, as we said earlier, the county is really looking to see a focus on the central node, and then, you know, possibly the area inside the Beltway, which would be the eastern node, or some programs that might span across those two areas, such as, you know, a commercial facade improvement program, just for example, or a senior home repair program, or a marketing campaign for the corridor. Those are just examples to give you a sense of what we're talking about. So the chances that it's going to be really focused on the western node, I think in the next several years are, I would say, probably slim. But you know, we'll have to see what the stakeholders that are involved are interested in also. So.
Is that it, Michelle, for questions?
Yes, as far as I can tell, some folks, you know, commented they were trying to unmute themselves, and so we've put a few of us have put in the chat, you know, to put any comments in the chat instead of trying to unmute. But I haven't seen any new ones pop up.
All right, and I also know we have quite a few attendees on their phone, and I don't think they have opportunity to post in the chat. Do we want to let them ask questions, maybe by unmuting them? I believe it's *6, maybe.
Carla, do you want to say something before we do that?
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to acknowledge that we do have Councilman Julian Jones on the call. I know I got word he's on the call, so I just wanted everyone to know that he is participating. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Councilman.
Glad to be here and very excited about us moving forward with this CDO, and so happy to see so many residents on the line. So thank you.
So the suggestion was to try to unmute people that are on the phone.
Yeah, so if you are on your phone and you would like to ask a question, please, I wouldn't even know. I cannot say put your phone number on the chat because you don't have that ability. Yeah, well, you can always send your questions to Amy Menzer. Again, the email address can be put in the chat again, or like just send the information to the hub. I would say if you cannot, because there is no way for me to know who wants to ask a question. All right, well, if there are no more questions, I will say thank you for attending tonight. It's been a pleasure being with all of you. Special thanks to the technical staff. Director Lafferty, would you like to address the public again before we wrap up?
Thank you, Gane. I think tonight's been a terrific kickoff. Hopefully people have a good sense of where we're heading. We know it'll take time, especially as we hit the holidays. That creates that little bump in the road for everybody to step back. So as was indicated earlier, and we'll see a little more momentum in January, but it was important for us to introduce you to Carla and to Sandra tonight. And to Amy Menzer, who's our project lead, so that you have a sense going forward that, you know, we're very serious, and we're not going to just wait. We're going to move very quickly. The fact that Councilman Jones has joined us, I think, also helps demonstrate the significance and importance that elected officials and Delegate Ruth, elected officials feel needs to be placed in this corridor. The only other thing I'll say is that I love the optimism that we can get the central node done and move on to another node. You know, that would be terrific. I think we have to be realistic, as Amy said. There's a lot of work to do, but it's going to be guided by you with help from the consultants. So once again, to everybody, thank you very much for your time and participation. We look forward to working with you in 2023.
Thank you, Director Lafferty. So again, for any questions about the creation of the CDO, please contact Amy Menzer, who is the Senior Project Manager at amenzer@baltimorecounty.md.gov, or call 410-887-7955. I wish you all a very good evening. Goodbye.
Thanks, Gane. And thank you all for your help.
Good evening. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Can someone get the chat before we close?
Yeah, how do I do that?
Yeah, let me copy the chat quickly. Please don't close the meeting.
You're copying it?
Yeah, I'm copying it right now.
Thank you. Thank you for thinking of that.
Yeah, sure.
Daphne, you're muted, so I don't know what you're saying.
That doesn't automatically save as a text file or anything.
It does. We just want to take extra precaution because you never know.
Yeah.
We are just so used to like just copying it.
And since I told people I'd contact them in 48 hours, God only knows what would happen. No, anyway.
There's always something, but it was great.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
All right.
I knew we would get the questions about why aren't you going here, there, and everywhere. So, but that's just the nature of this kind of work. So
All right.
thanks a lot.
Okay.
Have a good night.
See you. Bye.
Thanks, April. Thanks, Miles. Thank you.
No problem. Good night, y'all.
Good night.